Welcome to Tiny Show and Tell Us, the bonus series where you write in with your favorite science news or factoid, we read your email aloud, and then we dive deeper. I'm Sam Jones, and I'm here with my co-host, Deboki Chakravarti, as always.
Hello.
But today we've got a little something extra. We've got a guest with us. Stephen Ray Morris is a podcast producer and audio engineer and the creator and host of See Jurassic Right, which is about Jurassic Park, but also about museums, science, movies, really just things that make us curious. And so we thought that it would be super fun to have him on Tiny Matters today with his own Tiny Show and Tell Us. But first, hi, Stephen. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I do love a show and tell over Zoom. Here's Pikachu, very upset.
Yeah. Oh.
There's also these shark pinup ladies.
Oh my God.
Which they're like sharks with like legs.
Shark on top, lady on bottom.
Lady on the bottom. That's fun. What else do I have? Here's a LaCroix.
Oh, important. Hydration.
A book.
Yeah.
You know, so that's my show and tell. Well, no, that's not my actual show and tell.
That's it.
Yeah. And we'll see you later, Stephen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Bye. No. My friend and collaborator, Andrea Ciaflo, aka Strangebird Art, she told a story on our Patreon series about there's a particular type of vulture in Spain where they've found their fossilized nest of like artifacts like stretching all the way back to like the medieval age.
That's
amazing.
You're like, it's Animal Crossing in real life.
Right.
Like there's like a nest that has bits of clothing and like different things, like a shoe.
Whoa. Why do you need archaeologists if you got crows?
Exactly, yeah.
Just to catch everybody up, because we like to make sure we remember what we talked about last time. Mm-hmm. In our last Tiny Show and Tell Us, we talked about Turner syndrome, and we also talked about why mercury is bad for you.
It's not good. Don't eat it.
Yeah. And I also remember that I can't say mercury. I always say mercury.
Mercury.
Yeah,
you got it.
This time I got it. Thank you. And also a reminder to all of our listeners that if you have a story you'd like for us to cover on Tiny Show and Tell Us, all you have to do is write us an email. So you can send us an email at tinymatters@acs.org. Or if you really, really hate email, you can also fill out the form linked in the episode description.
All right.
So, Stephen, we're not going to throw you into the deep end yet. We're going to make Sam go first.
Would love to.
I'm ready.
Okay. My Tiny Show and Tell Us today is from listener Ben. Ben wrote in saying, "Hello there. Recently, the FDA approved Yeztugo/Lenacapavir, same drug, two different names, as a twice-yearly injection for HIV prevention. This feels like huge news for more accessible prevention on an individual scale and for broader public health. It seems like a big step forward from the currently available monthly shot for PrEP, which has a couple names as well, including cabotegravir." Ben then asks, could you break down what this means in the field and when it would likely be widely available? Great question. Great Tiny Show and Tell Us, Ben. Mm-hmm. Let's get into it. So, a little bit of context. Currently available treatments for HIV often require several daily pills. They can come with tough side effects for liver, for your bones. In addition to that, like Ben also mentioned, that the currently available PrEP has a monthly shot and Lenacapavir is twice yearly, which already more appealing for a variety of reasons before even getting to accessibility. So let's talk a little bit about Lenacapavir. So it's an antiretroviral drug. Like I said, it's delivered via injection. It's injection into the abdomen and it lasts for 6 months. This drug, like many drugs, took a really long time to make happen. So over 2 decades for this one, which is pretty on point with most drug development. And so for HIV drugs in general, typically the target is an enzyme or enzymes. And that's because enzymes have these clear active sites. So they're like little pockets within the enzyme that you can try and target with drugs. So for example, reverse transcriptase, which many of us hear about when we're talking about HIV, that's an enzyme. HIV drugs that are transcriptase inhibitors will hit that transcriptase to prevent it from converting RNA into DNA. So they stop its replication. But Lenacapavir is different. So what these scientists decided to do was target the viral capsid. So this is the protein-based structure that makes up the jacket around the viral RNA. I like that description, Deboki, that you had for that, because it really is. Like, that's kind of what it is. So this capsid is responsible for transporting the viral genome, so that RNA, directly into a host cell's cytoplasm. So it brings it right into a cell where it can then reach the nucleus, which is bad because then, of course, it can be transcribed into DNA. So the reason they were like, let's hit this capsid is because there were a few reasons. But one was that previous work had found that some mutations in the capsid actually make it really hard for it to infect the HIV to infect cells, which great, that's what we want. Also, there was work showing that HIV can't get into monkey cells because they have a protein that keeps the capsid from uncoating. So you're not going to get that viral RNA release. So this is just kind of lead up to say that the capsid seemed like a good target. But scientists also knew since the 90s that the capsid isn't this static structure. Like a lot of things, it changes. It mutates, it can be modified. It's really dynamic, it's porous. And so what lenacapavir does is it targets it at multiple stages. So it'll block its assembly, it'll keep it from being stabilized, and it will stop it from entering into cells. And it is a good idea to try and hit a few different points because, as we'll talk about, HIV mutates like no other, really.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, so then figuring out how to target the capsid was no small feat. I feel like I kind of keep saying that. I'm like, well, they wanted to do this, but it was hard. And they wanted to do this, but it was hard. But the point is they succeeded. And so there were scientists who found that there was a molecule called PF74 that caused the capsid to uncoat early. And it also got in the way of different processes involved in the infection. And so Gilead, who's the company that made lenacapavir, went through thousands of compounds before finally finding one that was powerful and stable, and it's called GS6207. The problem with GS627 is that it's almost too stable. It wasn't dissolving well in water, so it was like, what the heck do we do here? It would be hard to absorb into the body. But then I guess someone one day was like, maybe that's a good thing. And so they decided to start injecting it under the skin. They found that the drug would actually slow release through this method. And so lenacapavir was born. It was approved by the FDA December 22nd, 2022, first as a salvage therapy. So a salvage therapy meaning for people who had HIV and other treatments were not working. And a lot of times they were dealing with like multi-drug resistant HIV. Last June, 2025, the FDA approved it as a PrEP option, so pre-exposure prophylaxis option. And it's long acting, it's a twice yearly injectable, and it shows near total efficacy, which is what we want to see.
Wow.
It does need to be carefully coordinated with other medications. So yeah, you don't have this like daily pill burden. You also don't have monthly injections. You have it twice yearly. But the reason, and I was getting into this a little bit or mentioned it earlier, that you need to have a variety of therapies going if you're going to be using it as a treatment is because HIV is awful. It's tricky.
Yeah.
You can get drug resistance pretty fast.
Wow.
If you're just dealing with one thing. So we did way back in the day. Yeah. I think it was episode 2 of Tiny Matters.
Yeah, it was super early.
Where I think it was titled something like, "Why haven't we cured HIV yet?" And a big reason is that this virus is so good at mutating. And so if you're only hitting it with one drug, it's pretty easy for it to develop resistance. So you want to hit it from a bunch of different literal and figurative angles at once to be able to either stop it from progressing to AIDS or keep it from infecting in the first place. Okay, let's talk about access, because that was something that listener Ben asked about. So just to keep in mind, we record these episodes ahead of time. And so we're recording this about a month-ish before it comes out. And so there could be some changes because with these kinds of things, yes, drug development is slow, but sometimes policy toward drug accessibility can change quickly. So please keep that in mind. And we are linking to sources that should be updated. Be sure to click those links if you are really curious about this topic. Okay, so in October 2024, Gilead, who makes lenacapavir, signed what's called a non-exclusive, royalty-free voluntary licensing agreement with 6 pharma companies. And so the idea is they would supply generic versions of lenacapavir in 120 high-incidence, resource-limited countries.
Wow.
There are also direct provisions to some specific countries. Not entirely sure how registration works, but apparently they prioritized registration of the 18 countries in the world that represent 70% of the HIV burden. Those countries include, I feel like I don't need to list all of them right now, but essentially a number of countries in Africa, as well as Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So all of that is great, but a lot of it is like, we're doing our best and we're working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hard to read between the lines there. So I was getting, some of the information off of Gilead's website. So yeah, access is still lacking. A lot of our understanding, and by our, I mean mine and Deboki's, comes from an open letter from Doctors Without Borders that actually is from March 30th, 2026.
Oh, wow.
And it's an open letter to Gilead from Doctors Without Borders that's calling for direct access to Lenacapavir because they're saying that the current is actively falling short. And this open letter came after a meeting in February of this year, so February 2026, where apparently Doctors Without Borders was trying to buy a supply of Lenacapavir directly, and Gilead refused to sell it to them. I don't have all the details on that. I know these are things that are very complicated, but the fact that this open letter was written means that it's worth paying attention to, I will say. Just as a reminder for those who might not know much about Doctors Without Borders, a big part of what they do is try to gain and provide access to drugs that countries need, that oftentimes, like poor, low-income countries need. Especially, when you think about it, a lot of communities are part of clinical trials for these drugs, and then they don't get access to the drugs, which is just unethical, really. So Doctors Without Borders at this time can get a limited amount of this drug through something called the Global Fund, which has a supply for 2 million people over 3 years. But if you think about how many people are in areas where they need to be actively preventing HIV or they already have HIV, it makes sense that they would say this is falling short. So hopefully generics will be available next year, 2027. But yeah, the point is in the United States and some other countries where generally drugs are more accessible, you can get this drug. You can get Lenacapavir right now. It's available. But does that mean it's accessible globally? Not really, is the takeaway. But I thought that this was super interesting. I had no idea that this drug existed. I think it's really cool that I know 2025 was when it became available as a PrEP option, but I had no idea. And I think it's really cool for people to know that there is an option that is twice a year as opposed to monthly. Mm-hmm. And yes, if it's a treatment, you need to use it in combination with other medications. But it's just still like, if it means that someone's more likely to get either that PrEP option or to have that additional option so they don't develop multi-drug resistant HIV. It's, like the fewer times you have to take a drug, get a drug, like the better, I think. Yeah. Like people don't forget or they don't go past, it's just.
Yeah, we've invented so many ways to remember to take our pills,
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you so much, Ben. Sorry, I really went on like a full-on ramble with that, but yeah, I thought it was cool. Cool science in there.
I mean, it says for something as stigmatized as HIV, the miraculous level of science involved to do this. Like, imagine if there was more effort. Like, this is already so miraculous on so many levels. The idea of going from daily pills to twice a year, like that's such a dramatic difference and can affect the lifestyle of people who've been afflicted with this,
Yeah, like we're still not at the level of having an HIV vaccine, but this is close to being the next best thing. It's still not like optimal as a vaccine, but it's incredible how much like less onerous that is than a daily pill or anything like that. I remember when I was an undergrad and I worked in an HIV lab in undergrad for 2 summers, and the place that HIV research was at then is so different from now. And like, it's just really cool to see how much progress has been made in that time.
Yeah, I think it can be easy with HIV to get bogged down by the fact that there isn't a vaccine and that, it hasn't been cured yet. But also that, in my mind, like shouldn't take away from the fact that, like you said, Stephen, and like you said, Deboki, like the fact that it used to be starting in the 90s, I don't know how many pills it was a day. I think it was like 40 something. It was a lot to get from there to this already, even if it's prophylactic, like that in itself is amazing. And then if it's a prophylactic plus just a few other medications, as opposed to like 15 other medications or tons of pills that lead to all of these other issues with liver issues or kidney issues or whatever it may be, like we need to be shooting for cure and shooting for full prevention from a vaccine that maybe you get like once every decade or something, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's incredible that we are here at all in a lot of ways.
Right.
I just think so much about, if in the state we're in now, and it's like, if more access to this stuff, more funding, more think of what we could accomplish, you know?
Yeah.
Totally. Spirits is a history and comedy podcast focused on everything folklore, mythology, and the occult, told through the lens of feminism, queerness, and modern adulthood. Every week, mythology buff Julia and her childhood best friend Amanda get together to learn about a different story from mythology and folklore over drinks. That's everything from the mythological origins of major franchises like Lord of the Rings and Wonder Woman, to modern urban legends, to a roundup of werewolf stories from around the world. Start listening with any of the 450 plus episodes that they've released over the last 9 years. There's so much to enjoy, whether you're here for analyses of mental health and mythology or creepy modern ghost stories. Subscribe to Spirits in your podcast app now. That's Spirits from the Multitude Podcast Collective.
Was it my turn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mine is less, I mean, it's not less scientific, I guess, less specific, but I just really wanted to talk about Antarctic dinosaurs because
Perfect.
because dinosaurs are a gateway to science, marine biology. Antarctica is another type of thing that you're like, whoa, that place down there and it's all covered in ice. And do either of you have particular feelings about Antarctica?
I'll never go there.
I was just going to say, I don't want to live there.
But I love a penguin.
Yes.
Actually, there was a point where, if anybody listening doesn't know me, I went to UC Santa Barbara and I was going to do like a double major in film and geology, but all the science classes, they make you take at 8 in the morning. And I just...
The 8 a.m. lab is still with me.
They weed people out. And so like Allie Ward of Ologies, both of us had a very similar like, okay, we're going to do film instead of science, but then are finding our way back to science later in life. And there was a different period in LA where I was like, maybe I don't want to do film stuff. So I started looking at glaciology programs and stuff. Like I love Antarctica. There's a Werner Herzog documentary called Encounters at the End of the World. And it's just about all the weirdos that go down to Antarctica.
Amazing.
You're like,
Lovingly.
I could be a weirdo.
I am so obsessed. I even started looking, like combing through blogs, looking at like, how do you apply? How do you work there? Okay, you need to be a scientist, military. Maybe you can get like a grant or something. But there was an office manager position who would like designate the dorms at McMurdo. And I like was starting to apply and I didn't. So, but like, it's just one of those things that's always been very fascinating.
Yeah.
And then in 2018, there was a Antarctic dinosaurs exhibit at the Field Museum in Chicago, Dr. Nate Smith. And I was very excited because I'm like, wait, I love Antarctica. I love dinosaurs. You know, it's just one of those things. And also the idea that I think a lot of people, when you think of dinosaurs, you think tropical, you think jungle, and obviously Antarctica wasn't covered in ice during the period specifically that this exhibit covered during the late Triassic period. It was when Pangea was starting to break off into the two, there's the one supercontinent and then the two bigger ones. And Gondwana has South America and Africa and Antarctica and Australia, and then the like Zealandia plate, basically.
Right.
And I think this exhibit specifically in the concept of Antarctic dinosaurs, for me, it combined a lot of special interest. And I think the exhibit was really cool because then it moved to the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County in 2019.
Yeah.
So it kind of takes you on this journey of not only the history of, you know, exploration in Antarctica with, you know, Ernest Shackleton and starting from that kind of colorful colonial explorer age colonialism thing, people in shacks trying to get through the ice. And then the exhibit kind of then is like, okay, well, you know, there were dinosaur fossils found in the 60s and 70s, which is, again, thinking about paleontology digs, you're out in the desert, but this is, you know, Antarctica is sort of a desert in some ways as far as like the rainfall in some areas, especially like in the center where it's just freezing cold, no rain or not even snow, just like ice basically.
Yeah.
So the idea that people are going down there finding dinosaur bones, there's just like this stack upon stack of like activities.
Right.
And then to go and find bones from, so far they found like late Triassic, and this exhibit specifically was 250 million years ago. So all the fun dinosaurs that they found is a thing called a Cryolophosaurus, which, wait, I have like a little show and tell. Cryolophosaurus. And so it is So you know the Dilophosaurus in Jurassic Park?
Once I see that photo, yes. Or that photo, that image.
That live footage.
Yeah.
The live footage from 200
The ring
million years
camera
ago.
that captured it.
Yes. So the Dilophosaurus is a Jurassic theropod that famously in Jurassic Park has like the, spits acid and obviously all that was, made for the screen. But the significant thing is that it has this crest.
Right.
And so Cryolophosaurus is its Antarctic cousin, and it has more of like a Elvis Pompadour thing.
Yeah.
And it's about like 20 to 30 feet long, I think. And so, it was like the top predator down there. And to me, what's also fascinating about the polar regions, even at a time when there wasn't ice down there, is that, still half of the year was 24/7 daylight and half the year was 24/7 darkness. So thinking about like the ecosystems that survived down during the polar regions. But again, just the idea that there was still a thriving, dinosaurs. There was these sauropodomorphs, basically just like proto-sauropods that were just like little guys, instead of Littlefoot, they were like, it's like if Littlefoot stayed little,
Yeah.
And there was tons of like amphibian type salamander things. Like I feel like anytime you look at like Triassic creatures, they just look like these big salamander frog guys.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of the environment that these dinosaurs were existing in, specifically this Antarctic dinosaurs exhibit. But I mean, again, my fascination with it also extended to when Antarctica and Australia were still connected, because the idea of dinosaurs not being in a jungle, being in colder environments, because dinosaurs, a lot of them were going towards the warm-blooded side, especially by the end of the Cretaceous. And so I just think it paints another picture of this time.
Yeah.
I think people are still, dinosaurs are sluggish, slow reptiles. And it's like, no, the reason why dinosaurs evolved into birds was because this, a particular line of dinosaurs started getting warm-blooded, bigger brains, different adaptations and stuff that allowed them to be successful. And yeah, I just like the idea of like a dinosaur in the snow. I think that's just fun.
Yeah. Do we know if there's anything that unified any of these dinosaurs from this area?
I mean, the sort of commonality, because I interviewed Dr. Thomas Rich, who is a paleontologist. Him and Dr. Patricia Vickers, who's also a paleontologist, husband and wife paleontology team, they moved to Melbourne in the 60s and 70s. And they sort of like revolutionized the paleontology scene there because they discover a place called Dinosaur Cove.
Oh, cool.
Just one of these, like when you're a kid and you're like looking at, I feel like photos from the 60s and 70s and stuff, it's just like, this is what a dinosaur dig looks like.
Right.
And so a lot of their work was just seeing like, okay, what kind of adaptations would not only dinosaurs or other creatures and stuff have in these kind of environments? Well, it's like maybe bigger eyes covered in whether it's like proto feathers or just, things to adapt to, especially as, you get into the Cretaceous and Antarctica and Australia continue to split apart. And then, as the planet gets colder, it's just like these little things that make the dinosaurs down in the southern hemisphere, just that makes them a little bit different than dinosaurs further up.
Yeah.
To me, I can imagine, though, the greatest pleasure would be in naming a dinosaur.
Oh, yeah.
I had to bring it up because interviewing Dr. Thomas Rich, him and Dr. Patricia Vickers, they named dinosaurs after their children, which is just like a baller move.
Yeah.
And the dinosaurs, Leilania Sora and Timimus. So Tim and Leilania.
That's so cool. To be a kid who's like, yeah, a dinosaur's named after me.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things, too, because the second time I went to Australia in 2025, I had a chance to interview Dr. Thomas Rich, went to the Melbourne Museum, got to like hang out and see all like that. Their Naturalist Museum is awesome. It wasn't until afterwards that I realized like, oh, a lot of him and Dr. Patricia Vickers' research is used in the iconic Walking with Dinosaurs documentary from 1999 where they talk about all these polar dinosaurs and stuff. So it was like a full circle moment of like, oh, this person's work has been a huge part of Walking with Dinosaurs being this big pop culture moment for dinosaurs in the late 90s. Like, people have always been kind of fascinated with the non-traditional images of dinosaurs because we're always trying to like find new information. Like when Jurassic Park came out, it was like, yes, we kind of had this idea of dinosaurs being warm-blooded and evolving into birds and being more nurturing parents and stuff like in the 60s and 70s. So it was like the 90s when it caught up, And so now I feel like we're in this stage where it's like really hammering home that birds are dinosaurs, and that also the idea that they existed in different kinds of environments as well, because dinosaurs were at the top of their game when they were taken out by the asteroid. It wasn't this debate over time has been like, well, were they already declining? Were they already on the way out? And so the asteroid was just like, just drop kick them for all intents and purposes. I mean, there's still some debate here or there. Maybe there was some regions where they were starting to decline, but like overall, their diversity at the end of the Cretaceous their legacy was cut short, you know?
Yeah. They were going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. And, you know, not to spoil Steve Rusatti's book, but technically there are over 10,000 bird species, and birds are dinosaurs. So there's actually more dinosaurs now than there are mammals. So maybe we're still in the age of dinosaurs.
Good point. I love that.
Do you have favorite dinosaurs? I want to know what your dinosaur thoughts are.
Oh, I have a sentimental attachment to iguanodon just because I remember doing a report on iguanodons in 4th grade, and I couldn't tell you anything except that I think they were the first dinosaur discovered.
Yeah, they're one of the Megalosaurus, Iguanodon, Baryonyx, like because they found that big spiky thumb.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Sam, what about you?
I think this is just because the Land Before Time cartoon had a really cute one, but the Triceratops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, I just like a Triceratops. I think they're cool. I like how they're cute, kind of cute as a dino, but like also fierce. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's why I love my favorite dinosaur is the Shunnosaurus, which is a long boy, a long lady. Yeah. But they were from the Sichuan province of China, and they actually are like shorter. So they're not 100 feet long. They're not these like super titans, like kind of what the popular image is of. They're kind of shorter, and they have a club tail. Oh. So to me, I've always gentle giants, but these ones will kind of like Triceratops. It's like they will defend themselves, you know.
Right. They'll mess you up.
Take out a kneecap of a T-Rex.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of a general overview. I just think it's like such a great jumping off point if you are somebody that's into dinosaurs and you want to like go a little deeper. And I think it's those changing public perceptions. Getting to talk to Dr. Nate Smith and some of the other folks that like went down to Antarctica in the 2010s, and the level of effort that goes into not only digging up dinosaur bones, but then also doing it in sub-freezing temperatures. I've been trying to look for her name because I can't find it. I think her name was Julie, but she was like the person who ran the whole mission.
Okay.
Because they all spoke at the Natural History Museum in 2019.
Yeah.
Just being like, okay, well, enough snacks, make sure people don't freeze to death, you know, and like get the bones back. Because I think for a lot of people too, when they think about dinosaur bones, you're not necessarily like digging up one bone at a time. Sometimes you're like taking out a huge chunk and bringing it. Like, what does that mean to bring like a ton of rock back from Antarctica?
Right.
Like, how would you fly that back?
I was just going to say, how do you airlift that?
Seriously.
Totally. And again, just prepping for a mission like that is so fascinating. I mean, I'm such a dork that when that exhibit came to LA, I finagled my way into having my birthday there.
Oh, amazing.
That's awesome.
The Natural Museum was gracious to let me essentially force all my friends to do that exhibit after hours.
That's cool.
On my birthday.
I love that.
Because I was just like, Antarctic dinosaurs, they're so cool.
Yeah. No, that's so cool.
You have to read the plaque. Everyone read the plaques, you know, like you have to read.
There's going to be a quiz at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. Anybody who's curious, it's just such a fun rabbit hole. Because it's just stuff that I think about all the time. I just love the idea that dinosaurs literally roamed every inch of this planet.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephen. I feel like
of course.
Now I feel like I need to go on a bit of a dino deep dive journey, because I don't want to say every little kid, but every little kid that I remember, and me as a little kid, like had a dino fascination at one point. And I think we get older and we don't all become, you know, paleontologists or we like let that fascination kind of slip by the wayside. But it's fun to remember just like how cool these massive animals, not always massive, but often massive animals were. And who knows how it would have impacted our development if they had somehow still been around in bigger numbers than just birds.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also amazing because who knows what we could discover today or tomorrow that would shift our perception of
for sure
how something was happening with dinosaurs in whatever part of the world at whatever time period. So it's just, we've learned so much, but there's also so much more to explore. So I think that's really fun. Like we are uncovering the past. Like it's weird to think when you're walking around, maybe a dinosaur walked here.
Yeah. And also just, again, like seeing the more details you learn, the more it can apply to seeing the way things evolved or seeing the way things handled certain periods of stresses when the planet warmed up, like what the great Permian extinction, which was what started the Triassic, like in between that, like before the age of the dinosaurs, and how like 90% of life was like wiped out, and how the oceans basically turned to vinegar. So all the shelled creatures like dissolved, and then showing how communities rebounded can give us clues to how we can deal with what's going on now and our relationship to the environment. I think it's so powerful to look at that stuff.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I'm going to take us on a hard right turn away. I don't know if it's a right turn, left turn, whatever turn we're taking. We're taking a hard one.
We're taking a turn and it's not in the direction we were going.
So I have a letter from listener Kathy who writes, I've had a knee injury for the past few months, and my physio has had me doing blood flow restriction therapy where I do leg exercises with a band that inflates around my upper thigh like a really tight blood pressure cuff. He kind of explained that it almost concentrates all of the chemicals your body sends usually after exercising so that a certain area heals more quickly. But is that true? How does that work chemically? Sorry, no fact, but I thought it might be interesting and I'd love to know more. Kathy, there was a fact in there. It's the fact that you're getting blood flow restriction therapy. And now we get to learn more.
Yes.
And this is really, really interesting to me. I do a lot of lifting, and this like really goes into a lot of stuff that's related to lifting. But I'm also, part of the way that I enjoy lifting is by not diving into the science of it. But this was a good way for me to like be like, no, I gotta learn some stuff. So I'm gonna just like kind of repeat what Kathy said. So blood flow restriction therapy is like a very real therapy. Basically, the physical therapist will use a tourniquet to apply a specific amount of pressure to a person's arm or leg while they're doing some kind of exercise. And the point of the tourniquet is to keep blood flowing into the muscle, but to not let it flow back out. And you'll see this used in different situations like recovery for some kind of injury. You might use it if you have like an elderly patient who needs to do strength training, or if someone is in a situation where they can't exercise, but you're really trying to keep their muscles from atrophying. This is where this method can be useful. So to get to the question that Kathy's asking, like, how does it work? I'm going to take a step back and just talk about building strength in general. And again, I don't want to like get in the weeds of this stuff. Like all the muscle scientists out there, there's a lot of words that you can dive into. But basically, the most efficient way to build strength is to like lift something really heavy. It's annoying, but it's true. Like you go out there, you put things on your back and you lift them up, or you do a deadlift of something really heavy. And what this like, again, very generally means is that if you can like squat, let's say 250 pounds, if you wanted to build strength, you would want to do multiple sets of anywhere from like 1 to 8 reps of somewhere around like 200 pounds. This is not me giving fitness advice. This is just me.
Please don't just go try and squat 250 pounds and then blame us if you injure yourself.
Exactly. This is not the Tiny Matters like strength programming. And so basically what you're doing when you're lifting these really heavy kinds of weights is you're getting, you know, like growth hormones and all of these things that you need to build muscle to like do their thing. And so you're going to build muscle, and that's called hypertrophy. And building more muscle in general will help you build more strength, which then helps you build more muscle, and like so on. So that's the general idea of strength training. But if you're injured, you're like in this tough place where you have this muscle that needs to have strength back, but your body might not be able to lift that heavy of a load. You might not be able to go out there and do like this huge squat.
Yeah.
And that's where blood flow restriction therapy comes in. I was trying to figure out if we know like the specific mechanics of it. I think a lot of it is still very hypothesis-y. It's like we think it brings in these metabolites, or we think it brings in these certain like growth hormones. I think they have a pretty good grasp of the fact that it probably does work this way. It's just I'm not clear on exactly what all of the components are that are like being brought in. But the basic idea of what's going to happen is that by restricting your blood flow, your muscle is going to be having to like deal with things like fatigue and oxygen depletion as it's doing whatever exercise.
Makes sense.
To your body, that's going to feel like the thing is heavier. Like it's going to be like, oh, this thing that even if it's not that heavy is going to be heavy. And so it's going to kind of trick it into bringing in all those factors that you need for hypertrophy. In a physical therapy context, what that means is that you can work at a lower weight than what you would usually do. And that's great because that's going to be less stressful on your surrounding tissue. But because your body is still kind of in that place of like, working harder, it's going to build muscle. It's going to help you build strength. It's going to help you, and also like importantly, also just help you not lose as much muscle. Like maybe if you're not even in the place of building strength, you're not going to lose as much of the muscle as you would have if you weren't doing exercise at all. And so obviously, though, all of us meatheads, the thing that people want to know is like, can you use this outside of the physical therapy context? Like, could I just use this at the gym? Like, could I go to the gym, put on a tourniquet, and like lift at a slightly lower weight and get stronger? Like, that sounds fun. And that I think there's like not really great evidence for still. Like, I think people will market bands to do this kind of thing, and I don't think it's clear that it's really going to make a big difference. If you're not injured, you're probably just better off lifting a heavy weight, lifting the weight that's at the heaviness that will get you stronger, rather than trying to like trick your body into thinking a lighter weight is heavy. It's really more, again, for that like physical therapy context where you're trying to like back off on other muscles.
That is so interesting. I had never heard about this ever.
Yeah. Me neither.
I was just telling both of you before, I had back surgery in December. I had 2 spine fractures that I'd been living with for maybe 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
Everyone go get checked. We're all getting to the age where we're feeling some pain in our body. It's like you just never know, because America specifically is a country that's like, don't go in if you don't need it kind of thing.
Right.
Prevention is not, it should be the thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Ignoring the problem until you have a hard time walking. But I'm very grateful, and it's a thing that I'm now telling everybody, is that I think because my surgery wasn't emergency, so I had like 2 titanium rods put in my L5 to like stabilize where the 2 fractures were. But I knew that this surgery was coming for like a while. So I actually started to like do physical therapy before my surgery.
Smart.
And just kind of getting in better shape before. And I believe the thinking was, it's like your body is already going to be at a deficit when it's healing from an injury.
Right.
So you might as well bulk up essentially before, so that when you are, when I basically had to like learn how to walk again, like in the first 2 weeks of my recovery, then my recovery since December has been so much better than I could have imagined.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky that I didn't have the type of injury that I couldn't, because I imagine that some people, if they're dealing with it, could have used something like this.
What you were saying kind of made me think about, so I like in the past few months started doing pelvic floor therapy after having had a baby summer of 2024. So it's like actually like a decent amount of time after having given birth. But I know a lot of people who have done pelvic floor therapy before giving birth. Like, and my friend had actually recommended to me, and I just didn't do it. I didn't get around to it. And now I wish I had, because I'm like, maybe it wouldn't have hurt. It still would have hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I've always wondered. But there's a lot of talking to my friends who like had recommended going to it before, is like, I think preparing your body to like know like things about giving birth. But I think it's also about like learning to engage with certain muscles that you don't think about, but that are super important. And I imagine a lot of that's similar for a lot of the physical therapy like you were preemptively doing, where it's like, it's in part about getting your body ready for like this massive shock that's going to happen.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. It is wild how malleable the human body is.
It really is. Yeah.
The funny thing for me was, my surgery is 3 hours. And then they sort of like lost me in the hospital for a little bit. Because I was in the like immediate recovery longer before my final destination of where my mom and my dad were going to come find me.
Okay.
But somebody just wasn't answering the phone.
Okay.
So I was like totally fine, but it's like, because my surgery was on a Sunday. So it's less staffed and everything. So just FYI for anyone, if you happen to have a surgery on a Sunday, but it's actually kind of nice because it's not as crazy. It's not as busy. But I actually woke up because, I went under at 10. Surgery was done at 1. Surgeon called my parents. That was the other thing too, is my surgeon like directly called my mom. Was like, we did it, great job. And then they didn't find me really until close to like 5 o'clock. And so like I started coming to, because I just like, because again, I feel like with anesthesia, people react differently. Like I really didn't want to be that. I don't like videos of like seeing people upset. Like from that, it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of unnerving to me. But to me, I just like remember like my ears opened first, because I was hearing these nurses like total talking chisme, like talking gossip about somebody else in the hospital.
Oh my gosh, that's really interesting. That's like, so the like audio producer in you who's like, I'll just tune into the audio for a bit before I open my eyes.
Exactly.
Well, thank you to Stephen for joining us. And thank you to Ben and Kathy for submitting to Tiny Show and Tell Us, a bonus series from Tiny Matters, created by the American Chemical Society and produced by Multitude.
You can send us an email to be featured in a future Tiny Show and Tell Us episode at tinymatters@acs.org, or you can fill out the form that's linked in the episode description. And before we sign off, Stephen, where can people find you?
You can find me at Stephen Ray Morris and all the things. And yeah, I mean, again, thank you so much. This was so much fun. I learned a lot. Hopefully people now go down that Antarctic dinosaurs rabbit hole. But yeah, you can listen to See Jurassic Right. I did a series last year called the Back to School series where I interviewed science communicators and scientists and stuff about their work and trying to do science and talk about science and, you know, in the modern era and where their origin stories were and their hyperfixation facts. Our mutual friend Alex was on.
Yes, Alex Danis.
So that's a really fun series, a great thing to get started with. I recently talked to Elise Fox, who is a mathematician, and her job in Queensland, Australia, is to count the fish in the Great Barrier Reef. So she started as a mathematician, became a fish scientist. It's such a cool story.
That's so cool.
She's really rad.
Yeah.
So that's like a really fun episode. To me, that's the thing too, talking to all of these scientists and science communicators was like, oh, there's so many interesting jobs and so many careers you can do. And I think with the success of Project Hail Mary, I think science, it's like people want to learn about the world and fix it and stuff. So I think it's like hearing people's stories about how they became scientists and science communicators in those unorthodox ways, because I think we're told growing up there's 5 jobs, but no, there's actually so many things you can do. And that was it's really inspiring for me to hear stories like that. So yeah, check it out. See Jurassic Right.
Thank you, Stephen, again for being here. This was super fun. First time we've had a guest on Tiny Show and Tell Us.
So honored.
Yeah, first guest. It's a big deal. We will see you next time.